Probably one of the most iconic clear soups or broth soups is a chicken noodle soup. For our chicken noodle soup, we will need olive oil, carrots, parsnip, onion, celery, bay leaves, salt and pepper, a good quality chicken stock, and to make sure it's a good quality, we're going to make it ourselves as a part of the recipe. We'll need some chicken, wide egg noodles, fresh parsley, and fresh dill. The basic equipment we'll need for making soups is a good sauce pot. We need a ladle for serving, a wooden spoon for stirring. Usually you'll need dry measuring cups, measuring spoons, maybe liquid measuring cups. We're going to need a can opener. We have vegetables to chop, which means a knife and a cutting board. And I also have a garlic press and a vegetable peeler. To get our chicken noodle soup started off right, we're going to make that good quality stock. And we're going to do that by taking our chicken pieces with bones and skin, and we're going to add a little bit of carrot, celery, and onion and a lot of cold water, and we're going to let this cook for a few hours. After about an hour, I'll take the chicken out and put the bones and the skin back in to get more flavor and body in the stock, but we don't want to overcook the meat. And then we'll use that meat in our chicken noodle soup when we bring everything together. To begin our quick chicken noodle soup, we're going to place about 2 tablespoons per recipe of olive oil into a nice large pan. Everything is going to end up in here where the oil is starting. We're putting this over a medium heat. If you did not have olive oil in your home, you could certainly use vegetable oil or canola oil. So you just want to get this warmed up, and then we're going to add some vegetables. Now this recipe suggests adding the vegetables as you cut them. I personally prefer to have all of the vegetables and the chicken cut and ready to go. Everything mise en place next to the stovetop, and then I can add them a little bit at a time if I want, but really the first 4 vegetables do a fine job even if they go in all at once. And so I really like to have things chopped ahead of time and ready to add, because I'm not quite that fast at chopping and I don't want anything to burn, and I find that they benefit from being stirred. So unless you have a couple of people working on this, if you're just making this as an individual, I would suggest getting all of your chopping finished ahead of time and everything ready to add before you begin with the olive oil in the pan. Now that my olive oil is warm, I'm going to add my carrots, parsnips, onion, and celery. And we're going to make sure we keep this moving. Try to get all of the vegetables coated with the oil. And then we're going to cook and stir this for 5 to 8 minutes, or until the vegetables begin to soften. So it doesn't have to be quite constantly, but it should be very frequently that you stir. So we're about halfway through our time with the vegetables, and you can see they've started to soften a little bit. They kind of come together a little more. So just a few more minutes and we'll be ready to go on to the next step. Now that our vegetables have had time to soften, we're going to add some chicken stock. So one recipe calls for 6 cups. And remember, the quality of your stock makes a difference in the quality of your soup. We're going to add some bay leaves, and some salt and pepper to taste. And then we're gonna let this cook for a few minutes until it comes to a boil. Pepper. A little salt. And we'll bring that to a boil. So I turned our soup up to a medium-high to get it to come back to a boil. And now that it's boiling, we are going to carefully add the chicken. Now you could start with raw chicken and that's fine. This is already cooked. But just make sure you cut it, if you start with raw chicken, make sure you cut it into small pieces so it cooks through quickly. So we'll let this come back to a boil, and then we'll turn it back down to a medium heat and time it for 2 minutes with just the addition of the chicken before we add the noodles. Now that our soup, our chicken soup, has come back to a boil, we're going to add a ½ pound of noodles per recipe. And we're going to cook this for about 6 minutes. So when I set a timer, you want your noodles to be done through and tender, but not mushy. This is a very noodle heavy soup. So if you prefer a little more broth in your soup, you can always add a little more stock before you serve it. So now that our noodles have cooked for about 6 minutes, our soup is ready to eat. Before we serve it, we want to remove the bay leaves and stir in the parsley and dill. So here's our parsley and our dill. We'll get that stirred in and begin to remove the bay leaves as they stir to the top. Here's our decadent, delicious chicken and noodle soup, warm and ready to enjoy.